the catastrophic destabilisation of global climate, which is a little phrase that I like to trot out. It's a bit of a mouthful. At what looks like a faster and faster rate every time the scientists look at it. And that's the problem that we have that haunts us in campaigning against climate change, because even though it's quite a big achievement, and we shouldn't forget the achievement that the governments and people at the highest level are talking about climate change, there is a Department of Climate Change, that's all a big achievement. But unfortunately, if you then go and look at what the most recent science is saying, if you look at Kevin Anderson's analysis at the Tyndall Centre, for instance, it's quite clear that the targets are inadequate, that there's been a kind of a bit of a conspiracy of fudging by the politicians, because they're in a very difficult position, because it's very difficult politically to do the very big things, the very dramatic things, the very big changes that we need. That's the problem. So I sympathise with the politicians in many ways, but actually it's in a desperately difficult situation, and what they're doing is nowhere near on the scale of what we need to do. That's the situation with climate change. And so, we in the campaign are putting all our energy to try and, invest a bigger sense of urgency to try and get across to the population at large, the scale of the problem and the degree of change we need. No easy thing to do. But as we're doing that, most of the concrete actual measures that are taken are simply about reducing the use of fossil fuels per se, about reducing the amount of CO2 we put in the atmosphere from the fossil fuels that we burn for energy. But when you look at the broader problem, about a quarter of global emissions don't come from that anyway. They come from some form or other of land use change, deforestation in particular. So, that's a broader part of the problem. Now, to be honest, in many ways, the whole biofuel issue is a bit of a pain for the campaign against climate change, because we just want to put all that energy into just reducing emissions. That's simple and black and white. But then what they've got as their proposed solution, a lot of the time, is to use biofuels, bioenergy. Now, and that seems to sort of deal with the problem, we're not using fossil fuels anymore, so that looks like, a great answer, and it's easy to do. It's much easier because you don't have to change, you don't have to build a new technology, you just use the old ones, but you chuck in some wood instead of some coal, so great, it's an easy solution. The problem is that because we're just concentrating on the reducing fossil fuels, then all that biofuels, the huge industry that is building around not only biofuels but biomass, is putting a massive amount of pressure on land. And it's accelerating all those kinds of damaging land use change that are producing that other quarter of emissions. So, in other words, what we might be gaining, although it's very arguable that we are gaining, but might be gaining in terms of reduction of fossil fuels, we are losing because of increased emissions that are coming from various destructive forms of land use change, especially deforestation.